بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره صدق الله العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, because these are very precious nights, we're not going to take too much of your time. It's a good excuse for me as well not to prolong or extend. Keep in mind, inshallah, we're trying to take maximum benefit from these last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. If we've already started giving sadaqah, wonderful and excellent. If not, we can start tonight, just a few dollars. We never know if tonight happens to be the night. Yes, it's not an odd night, though to some in Toronto it still is an odd night. But nevertheless, inshallah, if this is that night, then of course we'll have a very great reward of a stupendous amount being given in sadaqah written for us. So coming back to the Day of Judgment, where all of this sadaqah and all of these good deeds and all of these taraweehs and all of these fasting by day and praying by night and all the good that we do in this world, inshallah, we hope it will come to rescue us on that day. So this day that we've been talking about for so many different nights now, for the last few nights we've been talking about the Day of Judgment. We are trying to hope from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that on that day we attain success. One of my friends messaged me today that he had received his marks for his exams in the 3rd year of university. He was overwhelmed. He was very happy. I told him, inshallah, once we're over with this entire pandemic, then perhaps we can celebrate. He said yes, and that we can call another friend as well. He's also passed all of his exams with flying colors. He had 100%, as a matter of fact, in one of them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and bless all of the university and college students and everybody else as well. But the real success, the real test, the real exam is that. This is the test and those are the results. That is the day that we want to succeed. So while the sun is only, according to one narration we've made mention of already, a hand span, or we mentioned the 1 mile narration, 1 hand span away, a mile away, I've heard, I don't know how reliable this is, nor am I too fond, or unfortunately, I'm not too well versed in the study of science, but if the sun were brought an inch or so closer to where exactly it is positioned at this moment in time, everything would burn. And if it was, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Allah has placed it exactly where it belongs, and it moves in accordance to the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. But imagine that sun coming down much closer than where it is now. It is extremely far away. I used to love to remember these numbers when giving an address or when giving a lecture. They sound very nice. It makes it seem like you know a little bit about science. I know nothing, to be very frank and honest. But I know this much from the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when that sun comes so close to us on the Day of Judgment, it is going to be extremely difficult to bear. Meanwhile, while so many are suffering in the heat of the sun and all the other happenings around them, meanwhile, there are a very special class of people, different categories of people, that in our words are just chilling. They're just enjoying themselves. And it is for such people about whom the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, كَالصَّلَاةِ الْمَكْتُوبَةِ يُخَفَّفُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِ. It'll be so light for the believer, it'll be so easy for the believer, like the amount of time, the duration that it takes him or her to perform 1 fard salah. The Day of Judgment that is 50,000 years long automatically becomes only as short as it is the amount of time that it takes to perform 1 fard salah. So these people, amongst them, there's numerous traditions, there's not just one, but the one that is very famous, the one that is more known to us, this is the one we'll make mention of now. However, in other traditions we find that there are other categories of people as well that'll be given this, what do you call it? You call it the VIP treatment or the VVIP treatment on the Day of Judgment by Allah Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal. So the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, سَبْعَةٌ يُظِلُّهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي ظِلِّهِ يَوْمَ لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلُّهُ. There's 7 categories, according to this narration. There's 7 categories of people that will be given shade under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mighty throne of Allah, the arsh of Allah, they'll be given shade on a day when there will be no other shade but the shade of the mighty throne of Allah. So if you've earned this shade, you've earned shade. And if you haven't earned this shade, there is no other shade. So who are those fortunate, lucky souls? Who is it that while looking at everybody, suffer? Because people they'll be suffering. When the sun comes a little close, we know what it's like. Though Canada, 8, 9, we were discussing this earlier today with my partner and I, 8, 9 months of the year, it's actually cold. It was snowing just, I think, less than a week ago. And it's May. Allahu Akbar. So we know, though we're living in Canada, there are days in summer when, very honestly, it becomes difficult for us because of the heat. In this cold country, because of the heat, it becomes difficult for us. Imagine what that day is going to be like when mountains are leveled, when the skies have clashed and rend asunder, the seas have been set ablaze, the stars, they've lost their brightness. And there's these people just having a wonderful time under the throne of Allah. They're just observing, I guess. That's what they'll be doing. I mean, that's what I can think of. Sometimes you try to picture this. You try to imagine this. What is it going to be like? And then you get an idea from some of the happenings in this world. Though there is absolutely no comparison, but just to give us an idea of what it's going to be like then, we try to look at things in this world. Like I've given a few examples a couple of nights back. When you're rejected perhaps. When you're told no while everybody else is told yes. When you're told access granted while access denied while everybody else's access is being granted. When you're told no authority, no authorization while everybody else's authorization, good to go. These are hard. It's difficult. But that day, there's these people. Number one, Imamun Adilun, a just ruler. Just ruler. Sometimes this can be like an oxymoron. Can you be a ruler and be just at the same time? But Rasulullah ﷺ said, and because it's so difficult, is why this person has been given such a great status on the Day of Judgment when everybody else is in difficulty. Why he had the chance to abuse the power that Allah had given him to use. This person said, no, we fear Allah. And every judgment that is made, and when we rule, and when we govern, and that applies to the ruler, to you and I, for every subject and subordinate that we have under us, this can also, from one dimension, apply to us. My children, my students, my subjects, my anybody, whatever it may be, my employees, regardless. But you have to do it with justice. Why? Because Allah is watching. Yeah, that's why they do it, for the sake of Allah. You do something so difficult, we'll give you shade on a more difficult day. Number one, Imamun Adil. Number two, Shabun Nasha'a fi ibadatillah. Oh boy, these are hard, these are difficult, and it's only going to get more difficult. Wait. So number two, that youth who's in the prime of his life, he could be on Instagram and posting this and posting that. Following this and liking this and doing this and going after this, and unfortunately we know ultimately what the goal of many, Allah knows best. But this person chooses to invest his youth in something else that is beloved to Allah. He doesn't run after what is not permissible for him. He doesn't run after something that will incur the wrath of the Almighty. He doesn't run after something where he knows is destruction. He knows there's anger of Allah. He knows there's the wrath of Allah. He knows there's doom. He knows this is what's taking me further away from Allah and further away from Jannah, closer to shaitan and closer to the fire of Jahannam. He knows. She knows. So they choose to stay away from this. But while they're young, to be doing this at the age of 50 plus, 40 plus is not so difficult. You've lost half your energy, but excuse me, some of us haven't, but a lot of us have. But when you were 18, you were still living a dream, and you thought to yourself, I can. I know I can. This is how kids talk nowadays. Not kids, young adults talk like this. I can get anything I want. Yeah, you can get anything you want. And you choose not to. That one who's got, excuse this, the slang or the language that is used by the younger generation. You've got game. Sure you have. But if you choose not to apply what Allah has blessed you with, those looks or those eyes or whatever it is that makes you think you're so dazzling to the others, choose not to use this in a manner displeasing to Allah. Allah has got a very special spot for you, my young friend, on the day of judgment. Allah will take care of you when everybody else is lost. They will be, oh my goodness, they'll be running away. We've already spoken about even leaving your family, your wife, your kids, and your parents. This man's having a or her, this girl, this man, this woman, they're having a wonderful time under the shade of Allah, just chilling. I mean, that's real. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. But it's difficult to be able to do this when you're still 20, 25. You're still in university and you choose to cover your hair, my sister. You choose to lower your gaze, my brother. I salute you. My salutations to you is nothing. Allah's got something far greater, dignifying and more honoring than my salute to you now on the day of judgment. Shabun nasha fi ibadatillah. Number 2, that young man, that young woman who invests their youth in the pleasure and the worship of Allah. Number 3, رجلان تحابا في الله اجتمعا عليه وتفرقا عليه. 2 men, 2 women, 2 brothers, 2 sisters in Islam who love each other only, exclusively, solely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and nothing else. There's no business, there's no other transaction, there's no this, there's no that. There's absolutely nothing that binds these 2 together other than the fact that they love each other for the sake of Allah. When they meet, for the sake of Allah. You don't owe me nothing, I don't owe you nothing. There's nothing else that keeps us connected other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure. When they meet for this. When they depart on this. There's nothing else. No, they're not benefiting from one another. They're not using. I hate this word. I hate this term. I hate this. They're not using one another. They're not looking for benefits in one another. No, it's for Allah's sake. That's it. So these 2, they'll be given a very special place on the day of judgment. Where? Under the shade of the mighty throne of Allah. Number 4, رَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ بِالْمَسَاجِدِ. That individual whose heart is attached to the masjid. The moment he finishes performing one salah, may Allah open the doors to all of the masajid all across the globe as soon as possible. This individual would perform one salat in the masjid. The moment he exits, not just for salat did he come to the masjid. It doesn't mention that his heart was attached to salat. It was the masjid in general. All of the activities, the ta'aleem that would take place therein, the visitations that would take place from the masjid, and all of the other a'mal that were there, the lessons on learning how to recite the Quran, the lessons on tajweed and on deen, and this person's heart was attached to the masjid. The bottom line. So the moment this person left the masjid, the first thing on their mind is, when will I come back? When I need to come back, so when is the next opportunity I will be back in the masjid, the house of Allah? And then when this person becomes absent due to some legitimate reason, falls sick for instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dispatches the angels to go check up on him. Allah deploys the angels, go, he's been missing. He used to be like a peg inside of the masjid. We haven't seen him. Allah knows exactly where he is. Number 4, that person whose heart is attached to the masjid. Number 5, رجل دعته امرأة ذات منصب وجمال فقال إني أخاف الله. That man, not a young man, that man, he's a man. He was called on, he was seduced by who? Not a woman that's, I don't know, for lack of better words, a skanky woman. A woman of class. ذات منصب وجمال. She was beauty, she had class, she was high class. She wasn't just any other woman from the block. But this was a very classy woman. Because I hate to say it, unfortunately, I said this one other day in the tafsir of one of the verses, Surah An-Nur, I think on the 18th day. We mentioned it there with the summary of the verses of the Quran. Nikah has become very difficult. while zina has become very easy. And that too, anyways, we can't go into too much detail, something might slip. So, zina has become very, very easy. But this person was invited not by just any ordinary woman, a woman of class. And when this woman called him, hey, this person said, Allah comes first. Therefore, I'm sorry. I fear him. I can't answer your call, but I will reply to him. So please forgive me. You might be upset, but boy, did he win the pleasure of the Almighty. Because it's so difficult. I mean, it's not easy. We get a single text message from anybody, and boom, we're gone. I know of marriages that fall apart as a result of this cheating and this treachery and this infidelity and in this, whatever you want to call it, it's become common, it's become rampant. It's destroyed society, it's destroyed families, it's destroyed so much good that Islam had introduced to the world. This zina has just destroyed so much. This person said, no, I'm sorry, it's not easy. That's why you got to be a man. Rasulullah said, Rajulun, he was a man. He had the opportunity, he said, oh no, I'm good, I pass. And then this person, you know what he should have done? If you've ever gotten this opportunity, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save every single one of us, because we can slip at any moment in time. The speaker, the listener, every one of us. We're all weak, we're all very sinful, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. After winning the pleasure of Allah, and you know you've done something great, take that with you, and then wake up that night, and tell Allah, hey Allah, today, hey Allah, I had the opportunity, but I kept you in front of me, so please forgive me. Or, oh Allah, I needed this. Oh Allah, I need that. Oh Allah, I've got this hardship. I've got this trouble, this calamity. Oh Allah, use that to take out whatever's in your way. And now, anyhow, that was number 5. Number 6, Rajulun, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do any of these. رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا فَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ. He remembered Allah when nobody was looking. Nobody was watching. Nobody was sitting next to him. Nobody could hear the cry. Nobody could hear the sigh. Nobody could hear anything else. No! He was all by his lonesome. Everybody else was probably dead asleep. And this person wakes up and he begins to ask Allah. And out of the fear of Allah, he starts to shed a tear for Allah. That individual whose eyes became watery, who shed a tear out of the fear of Allah, he just won himself an abode, a place of honor on the Day of Judgment under the shade of the mighty throne of Allah. And number 7, وَرَجُلٌ تَصَدَّقَ بِصَدَقَةٍ فأخفاها حتى لا تعلم يمينه حتى لا تعلم شماله ما تنفق يمينه. A person gave sadaqah, but not just sadaqah. Everybody gives sadaqah. Ramadan is the season. 'Tis the season for sadaqah. This person didn't just give sadaqah. He gave sadaqah with such sincerity, with so much ikhlas, that his right hand was the one who gave, and the left hand is still unaware. The left hand doesn't even know, let alone posting, let alone sharing, let alone letting the whole world know that I've given sadaqah. The last 10 nights, I gave $10 every night, $100 I've given. Why don't you do it? Keep something exclusive between us and Allah that no human, not your wife, not your husband, not your brother, not your sister, not your dad, not your mom, not your daughter, not your son, not your boy, not your best friend, nobody knows of. Keep that deed, keep that one good, keep that great amal, that action that nobody knows about. And then if God forbid, that moment in time when you're stuck and you know you need something to get you out, like those individuals who were stuck inside of that cave with that rock that just came in on them, and there's no way, they agreed unanimously that there's only one way that we're going to get out of here. Let every single one of us implore Allah with that good deed, that exclusive good deed that nobody, we've never used it. It's like the last bullet. This is it. This is gotta work. let us have something like that. Like Sheikh Zahir Mahmoud said, whose mother just passed away, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday or the day before. May Allah grant her Jannatul Firdaus and Jannah without any reckoning, as was his dua for his mother as well. And for those of us whose mothers are still around, take the advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Nevertheless, as he would say, if you or I were the fourth person inside of that cave, what deed would we present to Allah? What do we have? Use something, keep something, and cherish that thing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us shade on the day of judgment from the shade of His mighty throne. Ameen.